Germantown Community Television, your hometown news and information station.
Welcome back. With us now is attorney Angela Lawson of the Law Offices of J. Vincent Perryman. We are talking about estate planning. Angela, before the break, we had gotten into what the different documents do and this and that, and then we kind of, in some of those documents, like with the power of attorneys, there's two different options, the springing and the non-springing, and then with any estate plan, you've got the ability to either use a will or a living trust. And I guess, how would you go about advising someone as to how do they decide which one's appropriate for them?
Well, anyone considering putting together an estate plan should talk to an estate planning attorney, because this person is someone who is knowledgeable about all the different aspects of what goes into putting your plan together. You should come prepared with all of your assets and your documents that you need, and they're going to help you walk through step by step based on the wishes that you have for your plan to make sure that they prepare the proper documents that will help those wishes be accomplished. Okay,
and as far as if someone's trying to decide, do I want to have a will to where I've got to go through a probate administration versus a living trust where they would avoid probate. What are some of the differences with the wills having to go through a probate administration? What are some of those things that people need to be aware of?
Well, when you use a will and go through probate it's a public thing. It's not something that they're going to put on television or in the newspaper, but it is something you can go down to the courthouse and pull the files on anybody that's open to probate. You can go down and look at Elvis Presley's estate and his will and things like that if you want. And so when you go through probate, it is a public thing. When you use a trust, the living trust, for example, it keeps it private.
Yeah, and as far as I guess one thing that's always interesting, because you do hear some planners going around and really pushing the trust because they're a little more expensive, but on the privacy end of it, and I think they're more document intensive as far as having to transfer assets into the trust, and then you've got the addition of a will that pours all of your assets into the trust if you forgot to transfer any of them. Now, if you're going through a probate administration, the court has some requirements of disclosure as far as an inventory of the estate, and also having to bond your personal representative. Now, if you're using an estate planner that knows what they're doing in drafting that will, can they put provisions in there to avoid the filing of the inventory and the filing and the bonding of the personal representative?
If you go to someone who is, experienced in creating these estate plans, they do know some of the shortcuts they can take and that can help, exempt some of the requirements, such as the getting a bond or the inventory. So the estate planner can help you go through the steps necessary to do those things.
So, and I guess in going through those, sometimes while it's still public and somebody could see the will because it's on file with the probate court, they wouldn't necessarily see a full list of assets.
Right.
So it may get down to more of a cost issue as to whether you want to spend a little bit more ahead of time, or you want your estate to spend a lot more after the fact. Now, with all of these documents and everything, there's some other tools that estate planners use. What are some of those tools?
Well, life insurance policies are something that will be part of your estate plan. There's payable on death bank accounts. And there are other things, like there are different other kinds of trusts also that you can create to help manage some of your assets. But you're more experienced with the trust, so.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess, with the trust, there's several different types of trusts where you can use life insurance, and this is where it gets more in depth in the tax planning. And then you've also probably got your inter vivos gifting there if you have a taxable estate. And I guess this is a good time to sort of mention what a taxable estate is. As far as in Tennessee, anything over $1 million winds up being taxable. And on the federal level, we've got new legislation that just passed, which is a 2-year patch, and you've got anything over $5 million is includable in the estate. And when you get into those numbers, it becomes even more important to get a estate planner or estate planning attorney that really knows what they're doing. Because a lot of times, and we see this, you'll go to your divorce attorney and say, hey, I need a will as well. And they pull up a form and fill it in. But the question becomes, how do I know the difference between somebody that knows what they're doing and somebody that doesn't know what they're doing? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, someone that's experienced with estate planning knows what effects things like a divorce are going to have on your will, and they're comfortable with telling you, giving you advice on the tools that are going to work best for your estate. A lot of these forms that you find, and a lot of people that will pull the forms and help you fill out a plan, aren't experienced enough to know how these forms can work together and which forms are going to be best for your estate.
Okay, and I guess the other thing that we need to point out here as we're sort of coming to a close is that estate planning it's fluid, and it's that your assets may change, or you may get a divorce, or you may inherit new assets, or you may have a new child, may adopt a child, may wind up caring for your grandchild, or have a death in the family, and these are all things that cause us to have to revise the plan. And all. So our time is up for this edition of Legalese. I'd like to thank our guest for taking time out of her busy schedule to be with us and for sharing her thoughts and insights. If you'd like more information about Legalese or any other program on GHS TV, please refer to our website at www.ghstv.org. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to join us next month for more discussion on legal topics. Until then, I am Vince Perryman. Thank you for watching.